Hello, everyone. You are listening to Separation to Oneness, and I welcome you. I'm Nikki Hughes, and we will delve into the profound subjects of life, love, and spirituality. We are going to investigate and reveal how to live from that limitless reservoir of happiness, care, and resilience. And then once there, how we can allow ourselves to move into the space of bliss, the connection to everything. And that's what I call oneness. And so to find out more about my work, please visit my website. I am at elementalbalance.ca. I really hope you enjoy this episode, and if you feel it's valuable, I ask that you would kindly share it with someone who's important to you. Well, hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have a very special healer and guest with us today, Melissa Johannes. Melissa runs Hertz Health, which is Hertz, which supports people to take accountability for their health. And in doing that, they radically transform their future. Doesn't that sound amazing? I just can't wait to dig into this with Melissa. So a little bit about Melissa. Her formal background is as a doctor of chiropractic medicine. She is an advanced holistic medicine and energy therapy self-care practitioner, an ECM natural health care practitioner, Bio-Meridian electrodermal assessment practitioner, and she has her bachelor's in biology. So Melissa has a great science background here. So she uses a blend of her formal background and education with natural law, which we're going to talk about, quantum physics, we're going to talk about that too, and to help bring awareness to shift energy through the blocks that represent as symptoms, disease, or illness. Her passion is about helping those who've been sold a story of helplessness in their suffering. She works best with people who've been told there's no cure or solution, pardon me, and focuses on getting her clients off of life-dependent medications and therapies and returning them to their own health sovereignty. Doesn't that sound great? And so, Melissa, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. And so you have quite a diverse background. It sounds like you do some really incredible work. You've spanned science and the mystical, doing a little bit of both. I can't wait to hear about the blend of this. You have this solid and deep scientific background that sort of moved into sort of energy work. So maybe you could tell me, I'm really curious about how that journey unfolded for you into energy and sort of quantum physics from this really solid scientific background.
Absolutely. So I started off my educational career, I guess, just doing a bachelor's of science in biology at Trent University. I always love science. I just get completely fascinated with how nature works and how with humans work. And I've always seen the human body as this puzzle. And there's got to be a way to make the puzzle pieces work. And I think that you can attest to this in this current society that we're in right now. Western medicine or whatever type of medicine is out there likes to make it believe that we're missing pieces of the puzzle. And I just never understood it. I didn't understand how I could look outside and see animals just thriving, yet humans were sick. It just never made sense to me. So as I progressed in my university career, I went from more of the animal and nature biologics into the human. And I definitely knew there was more school coming. I actually had a childhood interest in becoming a dentist, but that became a really boring thought throughout my university career when I was exposed to the reality of what that might look like for me. So I thought I would take the opportunity, take my knowledge and skill set to become a chiropractor and take over a family practice, or so I thought. So I went and I did my Doctor of Chiropractic. I loved delivering adjustments. The thing about chiropractic that I love and that made sense to me was that we all have this innate intelligence within us, this healing force that is with us no matter what. It's with us from the second we get a paper cut, and it's working all day long, every day. And so that was the principle of chiropractic that I thought that I was really going to school for, and I was going to be helping people heal, one adjustment at a time. But then halfway through my chiropractic education, I, had my own healing crisis.
Oh.
So I was, experiencing all sorts of symptoms, and I was eventually diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And so then I had to get through school with managing my own. But what I found was that I became very lonely. I didn't understand how nobody in my program, none of my professors, nobody was able to help me. And I thought that that was what I was going to school for. So anyways, I made it through the years, just kind of suffering through my illness, and things were progressively getting worse. And then the pandemic hit. So the pandemic really shaped a lot of changes in my life. It gave me an opportunity to sit and actually focus on the healing that my body was telling me to focus on. And in that, there was a whole lot of complications with completing my chiropractic licensing and the restrictions with the pandemic. And naturally, I had to just leave that behind for the time being. And in that, I had explored into holistic medicine. And I was able to apply these principles and concepts directly to my life. And this is where I started actually feeling like I was healing. I was able to do things that I hadn't been able to do in years. I was able to feel sensations in my body that I hadn't felt in years. My symptoms were radically reducing, and I thought, this is what I meant to do. I mean, I always knew that within the scope of chiropractic, I wanted to be more. I never wanted to have to send out my patients to another doctor just to get a prescription. I was always very invested in getting to the root cause of any client that I had. So I continued, and I decided to pursue holistic medicine, and I found an incredible practitioner who was healing all sorts of things, from cancer to AIDS to autism. And I was just jaw-dropped. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I had to have it. I had to pursue that, because that was really, a goal from a very young age, was to help people heal. So I continued on, and I spent about 2 years in studying holistic medicine, energy medicine, frequency medicine. And, what I came to experience through that is these entities that I just listed are very, very powerful, but they can be used as a tool and a very, very good business as well. And although I was seeing people being healed from the extraordinary, they were coming back with the same problems or different problems. So it seemed that there was very good business in a revolving door around manipulating, the body through energy and frequency medicine. And I unfortunately had to detach myself from that practitioner, because, there was a lot of behind the scenes things that were not sitting well with me and what I knew to be true about the human body and healing. So that's where Hertz Health was born out of. I had to kind of step out on my own. And at this point, I'll be honest, I didn't know what I was doing starting a business. I had just spent 10 years in the educational
Cool.
system learning about health and healing. And I think I had one class on business that was a silly online module that taught me radically nothing. So I was, all I knew that when I started Hertz Health is that I know a lot about healing. I've experienced it and lived it in myself. And I'm sure I could help others because, I had honestly always been kind of that person that people would come to for health or healing or whatever. And I'm helping people just get on their way with their lives. So that's where I started. And it was pretty scary to step out into the world and do that. But with every client that came to me and with every little note of progress and, some just transformational stories, I knew I was on the right path. And now, just being a year in business, I've been able to clarify that and make it even more true in helping people to truly heal themselves. So I hope that gives you the background that you were looking for.
Yeah, and you're helping people heal at the very deepest root level, right? And that's sort of, I would say, the secret sauce is you're going to the root cause and you're actually doing things in a way that are impacting the frequency, which never gets looked at in Western medicine. In Western medicine, you get a body part, but we're so much more than a body part. We're all connected. It's all connected and it all matters, right? And that's the holistic side of things. So Hertz Health, being HERTZ, Hertz is all about frequency, right? We run at different Hertz levels. So, I wrote a little bit about frequency in my book, Radical Self-Love, just to touch on it. So what is Hertz Health in the way that you do it, and how does it work? And I guess how did you end up looking at sort of that whole frequency and frequency medicine? I actually haven't heard of that. So that's really fascinating to me.
Well, I was, when I was being trained alongside this practitioner, learning about energy and frequency medicine. I'm not sure if you've heard about Dr. Raymond Rife.
No, I have not.
No. Okay. So he was a very early pioneer of frequency medicine. And he was able to discover, different frequencies for different tissues in the body. And or pathogens. And so he was doing, a study on cancer cells, and he was able to target the cancer cells with a frequency and leave the healthy cells untouched. So he applied this to a study and had stage 4 cancer clients come in, and I believe within 60 days of the study, all of the stage 4 cancer clients were completely cleared of the cancer. And within the other 10%, everybody did manage, to be cleared of their cancer. Well, what happened after that? The American Medical Association came in, destroyed his lab, destroyed his work. But I happened to be one of the individuals who was able to find somebody who is still carrying on his work.
That's great.
So we were working with Rife frequency machines to bring about those frequencies into the body to help the healing process. But what I learned through all of that and watching people come back time and time again, because either symptoms had relapsed or whatever, we can manipulate the body with any sort of frequency device, supplement, medication. That's manipulating the body, but it doesn't mean that it's true. So my mission with Hertz Health was to have people bring about the frequency of their life that their body is demanding from them, but by being that frequency and embodying it, and not having to go to all of these outsourced ways of getting that frequency. Because in my own healing journey, I did that.
Right.
I went through the medications, I went through all of the supplements. And when I say all the supplements, I mean the whole bag. And, did I have resolution of symptoms within that? Yes. But what happened when I came right off of the supplements? Everything crumbled back down, into a state of disease again. So I wasn't actually making the true changes in my life that my body was asking me for. I was just putting a pill or a supplement or whatever it was on the problem.
Right.
So I really wanted to run far away from manipulation-based medicine. And I think that that's any type of medicine that involves you having to go for those tools. But I do recognize that there are a lot of powerful tools out there that we can use to help support the healing, but not to be mistaken that it's required to do so. The way that I see the body is always healing, no matter what. And any symptom, disease or condition that we have is a healing response. That's the body's trying to respond to you and let you know there are changes that need to be made. So when I have clients come to work with me, I think one of my spiritual gifts is kind of being able to see that person the highest potential that they could be in. And when they come to me with their story and their symptoms, I'm able to piece together parts of the puzzle that they have been missing. And I'm able to give them guidance and a way to try something new, try something differently, and give them the power back in their own hands instead of having to chase around to the 10 doctors that they're working with. I mean, I'm bringing people back to themselves. We only get to know our bodies well enough when we listen to them, not when we listen to everybody else who thinks that they know us. So that's really my mission within Hertz Health, is not to use a frequency device or anything, but it's to embody changing the frequency of your life to bring out the frequency that what you want. And I can only say it because I went through that myself. You can chase and you can chase, but you just have to be at one point or another. And it's in the being and in the acceptance where you can see the little notes to change. And when you make the changes and you truly do them, you don't just try them for 2 days and then give up on things, which a lot of people get stuck in that cycle. Then your body actually has a chance to rewrite these patterns and rewrite the stories that you've been telling yourself over decades upon decades. And so I just really try and do that for my clients. And within that, a lot of them take it and they just run with it. And when they have this little glimmer of hope, they can tend to see the world from a totally different angle. So when we get back to those questions that you might ask me at the end, I'll tie that all in.
Well, and some of it too is you've given them not just hope, but empowerment, because they're doing it themselves. They're not looking for an external source, which is all about opening yourself up to yourself, because we are so powerful inside of ourselves. We don't even know how powerful we are, right? Because we're so disconnected. And that's a big thing that I loved what you said about being able to be connected in with the body, because I think that a lot of people, I'd say a huge amount of people, are very disconnected from our bodies. We're so much in our mind that we are not even considering that our body is, it's an organism that's there to help us and support us, and it's giving us messages all the time. And so what do you think about the disconnection? Do you see some of that shifting? people becoming more connected to themselves and their bodies, and sort of coming back to that integration point where we're all the various parts of us are all working together. You can't exclude one completely. It's going to start, rearing up to get your attention, so to speak. What do you think about that?
What I see is there's a slow reconnection happening. I'm seeing it, I'm feeling it. But what I am seeing is a massive duality. And the duality that I'm speaking of is people in their first reality, which is the here and the now in the physical. And then we've got this other reality, with these devices.
Oh, yes, our virtual world.
The virtual world. And what we are all forgetting is what happens in that virtual world, although, it might be true to whatever happened in that time and space. We've all attached ourselves to it. And we all live this dual reality. So when we spend such massive, copious amounts of time in that virtual world, we can start to become disconnected from oneself. Yes. We can start to believe and think that our reality is based off of this virtual world. And I can't even mention how many times I've seen it in my practice where anxiety, stress, and depression are just due to this massive disconnection, due to this virtual reality that we live in. And it's the more present we become in that virtual reality, the more disconnected we come in our own reality.
Right.
And, that's part of one of the big things is to come back to yourself. You have to disconnect from what's keeping you disconnected sometimes.
Right. There's an awareness that has to happen. And just for the people who aren't seeing us on the video, we were talking about the phone, right?
Yes, sorry.
It's okay. I totally forgot to mention that too. So we're talking about the phone and just being so connected into sort of all of the internet, social media stuff, whatever that is. It's interesting. And we actually think we're connecting because we're having these connections with others, but we're actually disconnecting from who we are when we're in that. Is what I'm hearing you say. That's that virtual reality piece. And
but
so,
the bright side of it is that we have a beautiful opportunity to connect and get the word out like this. And that's what I'm seeing more of. But I think it's also because I made the choice to only allow that into my world. So for the listeners out there, just be very mindful about what you're welcoming into your virtual reality and whether it's serving you in a positive way or not.
Yeah, and I'd also even go a step further and say, look at the balance that you have in your life. If you're spending, 10 hours a day or 6 hours a day on your screen, perhaps that's the way you work, but how can you balance that with being present in your body and in your life? Because that's where life happens, right? Is in that present moment. So yeah, that's great. Now you talk about in your bio, you talk about quantum physics. And I know that's a really huge and complicated subject that we can't get into too much detail on that now, but are you able to simplify it here so that I can understand it and our listeners can understand sort of what you mean by how you use quantum physics and the importance of it in the role of healing at that Hertz level? How do you describe it to your clients?
I often describe it without talking about it.
Oh, okay.
I talk about it in the little examples that I can pull from their life. But if we talk about quantum entanglement, and it's this theory and connectedness and oneness, and if everything is connected in this reality that we live in, then there has to be a reason or a cause or effect to everything. And when we can realize that there is a cause or effect, happening within us for us, it's not happening to us. Hop out of the victim mindset. Everything's happening for us. Then we can start to really embody those changes and have the shifts happen that we're looking to make happen. But if we are just living in this reality where we're like, oh, gosh, this has just happened to me. My life is terrible. There's nothing I can do about it. We're playing in this victim mindset that doesn't, what would I say, embody or doesn't leverage off of the quantum entanglement that we have here to play with. I mean, that this is life, and it's not selective for some individuals and not others.
Right.
It's available to us all. But unfortunately, I think the powers that be have done a very good job at hiding these, truths from us. And with that, they become more privileged. They get more money in their pockets. Well, we still have people suffering here.
Yes.
So I hope that broke that down
Yeah.
into some English.
Yeah, it does. And so the way I'm seeing it then, quantum entanglement is how we're all connected, but it's also about where we go through those connections, right? Because there's a quantum field, and for every choice we make, we step into a whole different quantum field. And so I sort of see that quantum healing is about the choices that you make to either elevate yourself up again through frequency to a higher playing field. Each time, every choice you make, and every time you are being aware of frequency, you are moving yourself up to a higher playing field, which is where the healing happens, right? Every level is a new level of healing and a new level of clarity in the body.
Exactly.
Does that sort of cover it? That's
You've got it.
Of sort of what the quantum field is about, the choices you make.
Yes.
And you're moving yourself to a different level, right?
And you've got to be willing to look at those choices. Which can be a very uncomfortable thing for some people.
Be, because if you've been bumping along in your life thinking that life is doing things to you and like, oh yeah, I have no choice, that whole victim thing you talked about, then all of a sudden having to take responsibility and being aware and saying, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this differently. That takes some courage. It does. Take some courage. It can be like a huge wake up call in the brain, like, wow, I'm responsible for this, but that's the wake up, isn't it? That's the wake up to who you are. And sometimes it takes that moment, like you had your healing crisis, to shake you and wake you, right? Yeah. And and then I can share even deeper when I learned about the metaphysical meaning to the condition that I was labeled. Right. I had never read anything so accurate in my life. Okay. And talk about taking responsibility and accountability. That was my wake-up call. Like, wow, every single choice that I made led me to this point of disease. Right. And now I know that every single choice that I make from here on out is my responsibility to get me out of this disease. Yeah, and into health. Yes. Into health. And, it's just fascinating how beautiful Source created our body, whether you believe in God or universe, whatever it is. The body is the most intelligent thing. I mean, science doesn't even begin to truly measure what the body's capacity is. And even the science that is there is greatly tampered with, and has all sorts of restrictions that don't even meet up into this life. I mean, I digested a lot of research in my time, and none of it is natural. None of it is actually, set up as just natural living. It's all these very specified lab requirements, studies of certain populations and whatnot that really don't represent true life. Right. And every organism, each one of us, is uniquely different too. We're not just a cookie cutter thing. We're all a composite of all the things we've been through, all the things we've put in our bodies, and we also are our own, the DNA. We're all just very, very different, even though we're all humans. And so we're going to react to different things differently, right? Absolutely. Healing, but through through your hertz, through your frequency, we all have the ability, the internal ability to come back to health, right? Can you talk a little bit about beliefs? Because I know I do a lot of work with beliefs with folks, being a hypnotherapist. And I know that if you can, pardon me, if you can believe it, then you can achieve it. I know that, right? And so I do a lot of work with beliefs, and I know that they're held in the unconscious or subconscious mind, and our conscious mind is just constantly reacting to the programming. So how do the beliefs work in the work that you do, and how do you work with them, with the people that you see?
Well, I always start off any interaction with a client through kind of an introduction call or a discovery call, because I got to see where the beliefs are of the person who wants to work with me, because there are some people who just will never change their beliefs. And so I don't have to protect myself, but I'm not about wasting time or money for anybody. So I always, through that call and then through my intake information, I get a really good sense of where that person's beliefs lie within their healing and within their life, with everything that's going on. And then we dive deeper into that in session, depending on the session that we do. And we got to pull out those dark beliefs that have just not been serving us, and in a lot of ways they can actually counter react all of the work that we've been doing. We just didn't realize it. And in my journey, it was like I held this belief that I was given this incurable condition. I was going to have to be on medication for the rest of my life. I was never going to see improvement. I mean, to think that I could heal while I was simultaneously holding that belief within myself, I don't know what I was doing. I wish somebody would have taken my head and give it a shake.
But you didn't have the awareness at that point that belief was running, because they're subconscious, and you also, we are getting suggestions from the medical field as well all the time about you're never going to heal, or you're going to have this for the rest of your life. I remember being with my daughter in one of her appointments when she was a teenager, dealing with a mental health condition. And the doctor turned to her and said, well, I want you to know that you're going to be dealing with this for the rest of your life. And I just about lost it, because it's like, please do not give her that suggestion, because she's vulnerable. Her unconscious mind is wide open and she's taking it in. And now she's going to be dealing with that for the rest of her life. Right. So because our doctors and our medical folks are our authority, we tend to believe the authority, right? So did you have that with your experience too, that I have an incurable disease? You must have heard that from somebody.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was, I can't believe I accepted a piece of information as such from, a gastroenterologist with many, many letters and diplomas and certificates. And I accepted that as my truth.
Right.
I just can't. I look back and I see how many nights I went to bed crying, how many days I just spent completely like hopeless. It was no wonder, it took me a quite a long while to get things really shifted in my body. But, it wasn't until you kind of hit rock bottom and then you say, enough is enough. Like, this is not my label to hold. This was somebody else's picture for me, or the words or the labels, whatever they want to use, but it's not my truth. And we have the ability to choose our truth every day, and in that ability to choose is your ability to heal. And so that's really what I'm trying to emanate with Hertz Health, and even down to the symbol that I use, in my logo. That is the Taurus, and that is the energy field that surrounds us. And when that is in perfect alignment, well, not a perfect alignment, sorry, I'll repeat that. When that's, in harmony, then we have a state of good health.
Right.
And so even just the power of symbology and looking at symbols can be so powerful
Mhm.
to our inner conscious and knowing.
Exactly. And so
Mhm.
when you work with somebody, let's say you have someone you've just done an intake, maybe they have cancer or something, and you're looking at their belief systems. You said you pull out those deep, dark ones. How do you work with them? Is there an exercise that you do with them to help them shift their beliefs? And would you be willing to share a little one with
Yeah,
our audience to see, what beliefs do you hold about your health?
absolutely. I like to get people, just be sitting.
Mm.
And I just want people to, when we come upon a belief, so, my body my body isn't going to heal. Let's just think about that one. I ask my clients to tell me how that feels in their body.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them get a lot of kind of upset tummy, or maybe some like restriction around the throat, or maybe their heart starts to
Mm-hmm.
thump, or feel a little dull. And then I flip the script for them, so I'm like, my body is able to heal. My body is a wellness making machine. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, how does that feel in your body now? And they're buzzing. Like they're just buzzing, they're vibrant. You can even see the tonality, and I can kind of see the energy just completely shift. And I'm like, that's where the truth is. When
Right.
you can feel that shift, and that shift is a positive one, that's where your truth is. You should go with that. And so that is just a micro tool that I give to people. It's like, whoa, 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 you're having a bad day. Let's think about what you're really telling yourself. And is it true? Or is it based off of something that someone told you, or the fight you got in with your spouse and they're projecting their stuff onto you? It's got to be about you always. And I've reflected a lot on my journey, and what I realized that a lot of the things that I thought other people were doing wrong around me or to me were really just projections of my own inner wounds that,
Mm-hmm.
we all have, and we're all working on all the time. But it's to take that gaze outwards and turn it inwards, and have that self dialogue with yourself. There's nothing that can stop you from having that inner dialogue. Nobody could ever take that from you. But I think every person that might be listening to this podcast might know how it feels within themselves to do something against their own will, or
Mm-hmm.
to do something against their own wish. And when that happens time and time again, our bodies have no other choice but to show us the untrue that we've been living. And it's in that untrue that we've been living where the symptoms, illness, and disease come in as a
Right.
warning signal to get you back on your path.
Mm-hmm.
And the body never stops. It never gives up on you, unless you choose to give up on it. And it's that whole mind body relationship. Like, wow, how powerful. We have these computers up here that are
Exactly.
telling this what to do. And if you can maximize that connection to its potential, like, game over, mic drop. You
Yeah.
can do anything that you want within your body and your life, but it takes you being aware, and it takes you sometimes being annoyingly aware.
Yeah.
I think on my
Uncomfortably
darkest,
aware.
yeah,
Yeah.
uncomfortably aware. And it's like you're sitting in there and you're like super uncomfortable, and you're like, you just want out, but you have to move it through. And it's not to just avoid life. We can't just avoid it and package it and smoke it away or drink it away or whatever. You've got to feel it to be able to heal it.
Exactly.
And it can be very transformational when you allow the feelings to come in, and you can tell yourself that it's not a forever thing. Just you
Mm-hmm.
have to let it come, pass through, and you have the ability to alchemize it to the tune of the frequency that you wish to kind of leave with. So,
And so
yeah.
how would somebody know about the frequency that they want to lead with? Because I know we're not trained or
Mhm.
know about how the frequencies work in the body. And I know that you can have different frequencies for different things in the body as well. So how would someone know how to lift their frequency, how to change their frequency? Maybe you could give me a little example of how to do that as
Mhm.
well. That would be really great because I know I use sound therapy, like I'm a
Yeah.
sound healer, so sound is a way to shift. But like you said, it's probably just it may not be a permanent thing, right?
Yeah.
So
Um,
how would you do that?
I like to stay away from technical numbers and everything
Yeah.
like
Okay. Yeah.
that,
Makes sense.
although we can. But what I truly like to just give people as a mini thing is you imagine you as a battery, okay?
Okay.
You wake up each day with your full charge, and you've got to decide what's giving your battery energy and what's draining it.
Mm-hmm.
So, from a logical standpoint, if we had a battery that was leaking, let's just say we had a battery
Right.
that was leaking, the first thing that we would probably want to do is stop the leak before we start concerning ourselves with how to fill the battery, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing in my clients' work. I take the little energy leaks that they've provided to me through our session together, and then we've got to tune those up so that we don't have that leakage happening.
Right.
And even just with that, we get, a much higher frequency because we're no longer letting those things just deplete us. But
Mm-hmm.
now we've got to fill us again. We've got to, recharge the battery. So what are we going to do? Well, now we start living our life for us. Now we start
Mm.
creating the life that we want to really fix what we desire. And it's in that desire that it doesn't have to be complicated when we think about frequency. If you can
Right.
imagine the life that you want to live, you just know that's like a high vibe thing. That is just
Just
there
feels
for
good.
you. It's there
Again,
for your
yeah.
taking.
It's like you said earlier, you have to feel it to heal it, but you actually use your feeling to know what feels good. It's pretty seems basic, not
Yeah.
always easy to do. If it feels good, do more of that. If it doesn't feel good, do less of that, right?
Yeah,
So
and
yeah, it's
that's
what
the
feels good.
simples. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's what feels good, what fills you up, and it's
Mhm.
being honest about the things that drag you down because the subconscious is very intelligent in holding on to what we've known for a long time.
All about patterns.
All about patterns, and to break those patterns, sometimes it takes a lot.
Yeah.
And to come out of those dark places and to get really honest with yourself and decide to leave those behind, give yourself a hug, give yourself a pat on the back because it's not easy. The human mind is very intelligent
Hmm.
in its patterns and the way that it likes to wire the thoughts that wire together fire together in the neuronal networks.
Right.
And so you have to give yourself some grace in
Mhm.
your healing, and you have to recognize that your body has adapted to the way that you've been living, and it's created literal neural networks and tissues and everything in your body to support that way of life. So for you to change how you're feeling, for you to change your life, you've got to change those neural networks, and that's going to take work.
Exactly. It'll
That's
take a
like
bit of time.
renovating a home.
Yep.
You got to break down all the structures. You got to decide what you want to go on the wall next. You got to decide maybe you want a new sink in the bathroom, whatever it is. But all of that takes work. So
Hmm.
it's not a matter of just manifesting. And I'm sure that you've seen this in your world where manifestation and meditation and hypnosis can sometimes be a little bit of a divide for people because they're not doing the actions that need to accompany those mindset things.
Right. Yeah, there's a little more to it. I mean, there's you can use those tools to help move the blocks out, but then you do have to build what is it that you want, right? You have to know
Absolutely.
what you want. You got to start focusing on those positive things, the sort of, I call them your positive qualities. you know, and what do you want out of your life, you know? So I think that's really, really important, especially because the goal here is to get well, is to remove whether it's energetic blocks, whether it's physical blocks in the body through illness, disease, so that you can open yourself back up to sort of who you are and where you want to go. And that can lead you into a place of bliss. And I know it's probably really hard for somebody who's going through stage 4 cancer treatment right now to think about being in bliss and how to get there, but recognizing that it's a journey and that you have the power within you to make that some positives in there. So for someone who's going through something quite difficult like that, what would you suggest to start the process of, I guess, feeling better so that they can access some of those better feelings? What would you suggest? Do you have suggestions for that?
Yeah, you've got to accept where you are first.
Okay. Good advice.
We've got to get out of this disconnect of, it's beautiful to think about what life can be, but we've got to realize what life is. And when you can just accept that you are where you are, and that you can wake up tomorrow and have a completely different day. I mean, Carolyn Miss has this one line, and it's like, this day will never come again. You only have this day, and you have every moment in that day to choose differently. So when you're feeling like your whole life is against you, I want you to just turn that thought around and say, how is life working for me? What is for me in this journey that I have yet to realize? What could be working in my favor that I haven't opened my eyes to yet? And it's when we just take that negative space that we're in and we start to put a beautiful lens on it, then we start to positively see our way out of these things. But it's going to be pretty darn hard to heal when we're in that dark negative space and we don't see the light out of it. I mean, anybody who's ever sat in a hospital bed can attest to this. The mind doesn't turn off. You might be totally, stuck to that hospital bed, but the mind's still going. And if you could at least just work with your beautiful mind in every positive way that you know how, that will downstream have a lot of positive effects for your physiology. And that's all you need to start with. And then, if you get working with somebody who really knows how to connect the dots with the mind and the body and the spirit, then you're gonna go in that direction. The body is always for you. Even with the cancer label or whatever, there's beauty in that. And even though the society has created individual labels for individual diseases or conditions, the body doesn't truly know which condition is worse, quote unquote, than the other. But who does know is Big Pharma. Big Pharma knows how to profit off of the labels. They know how to take the sad and suffering person and profit off of that, which is so sad, in my work. And that's why the first thing that I do when I work with a person such as that is I remove the label. We've got to get rid of the self-identity to that condition or disease, because I realized I was owning that label in my journey. And as long as I was attaching myself to that label, I was going to be that label.
Right. And it also sets you up for feeling like you're broken.
Exactly.
You're actually not broken.
Exactly. So that's where I would start.
For healing.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And so the goal is always to get to that place of oneness and bliss. And that is always your goal for your clients, right?
Yeah.
So is there I know gratitude is something that I talk to my clients about in terms of helping move yourself, because it's one of the highest frequencies, that and love. Is there a daily practice that people can do to help them? Would you say gratitude's part of that, or what do you offer to your clients?
It's very client specific based off of
Okay.
the client and what life they live and what they're willing to do. But
That's true.
I would probably say the biggest, most impactful thing you could do is just when you wake up in the morning, thank the day for being here. Thank
Nice.
yourself for having the opportunity to even breathe and
Mhm.
wake up and get out of bed, because that's a great way to start the day. I remember so many days of my journey where I woke up and I just cried and I put the covers right back over my head. I mean, what way is that to wake up? But I
Yeah.
had to go through that to get to where I am now. So just try waking up each day
Yeah.
and giving a little practice of gratitude. And it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be this big old grandiose thing, sit in front of a
Exactly.
mirror doing affirmations. It
Mhm.
really can be so short and sweet. And when you start the day on that little note, your brain's going to look for more of the good. So,
That's right. And I
and
think too, thanking the body is a good practice to do
oh,
too, right? Because
yeah.
look at what we put our bodies through.
And
And
you're still
our
here.
bodies that we don't get much, they don't get much acknowledgement, right? Because there's
Yeah.
a lot of issues people have with body image, etc. So if you can start focusing on just saying thank you to your
Yeah.
body, because your body is a miracle. It's an
Yeah.
absolute miracle that you're here, and you're never guaranteed any moment than the moment that you're in terms of being here. So
Yeah.
yeah, connecting to that sense of gratitude for just being here in this present moment is amazing. And it can
It,
shift a lot.
it does. And you know what? On that point of shifting a lot, I think that was the biggest part of my journey with my symptoms is when I went from looking in the toilet and seeing blood every
Yes.
day,
Yeah.
and I was scared out of my horn. And then the next day I just said, thank you, body. Thank you for doing this for me, because I know it's my body's way of protecting me in somehow, shape, or form. I might have not understood it all at once, but
Yeah.
it was that. And from that day forward, my symptoms drastically reduced,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a lot more leeway a lot faster in my healing when I became grateful for my symptoms and for what my body was doing for me,
Yeah.
even in the thick of it.
And I think that's important too. I talk to my clients as well about, you got to pick up your message. Your
Mm-hmm.
body's trying to give you a message. So when you pick up the message, you shift things for yourself. You shift things in your body.
Absolutely.
It's like, okay, now the unconscious mind can actually start doing other things because you got the message now. So I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah.
I love that people are getting more connected to their bodies. We're seeing a lot more of the somatic work happening. I know the work that
Mm-hmm.
I do is rooted in the body and how we hold things in the body. I would
Yeah.
just like to ask a question about moving into a higher frequency, so elevating that Hertz level for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How do you stay rooted in that? Because I know, like, there's a lot of times you're sort of bumping along in life, you're working really hard on pulling yourself up and moving yourself to that sort of new quantum area, but then something happens. Because life happens, right? Something
Yeah.
happens and you get blindsided. Perhaps you're really suffering emotionally because of what someone said to you, and it's just opened something up in you, and you can feel yourself how you're pulled back down. But how do you get yourself back up again? Because you can get stuck there, right?
I
So,
love it.
what could the quantum field or energy work do to help you when you get blindsided or slapped back into your old way of being? How could you use that to help you lift yourself back up again?
You just have to return to this state of wonder and awe. Just be like, what could this scenario be providing for me?
Right.
And when you learn not to take things personally in your
Hmm.
life, and you just see things for what they are, and then you can extract the goodness out of it, it makes it a lot easier to move through, even if it was a heartbreaking experience. There is a lesson in every single experience out there. And it's the ability for you to surrender to that experience makes that process of moving through it a lot faster. Hey, I've done it. I have been the resistance many, many times.
Yeah, resistance is awful.
Yeah, you'll do this work, you'll be like, up here on cloud 9, you're like, nothing is ever shaking me. And then, the next day you get this terrible news and you're like, whoosh, I just went back like, 5 months.
Exactly.
But that is the incredible power of the body to show you where you still have work to do.
Yes,
You
I love
still
that.
have work to do. You can't just do your check boxes and expect that things are going to be hunky-dory for the rest of your life. It's not true. We're always going to be up and susceptible to these challenges, but it's the ability and the knowing and that communication with your mind and body and the awareness of it that allows you to move through things quicker. And just be comfortable with it. I mean, we can erase fear from the world. Like, I would love to do that if I had a big eraser, just erase the fear away. Nothing's happening. That's like super scary. This is just these cool flesh suits that we came in have cool notification sounds that look like symptoms. And we just got to be able to listen to them and not maybe run to the Google every time something happens.
That can be very, very difficult, can't it? Get yourself worked into a much bigger state of fear when you're reading all this stuff, because a lot of it is fear-based stuff out there, right? So I think it's important to recognize when you're going into fear as well. Right. So that you can go, so awareness is really key for that. So I'm in fear right now. How am I going to how am I going to bridge myself to something better feeling? Right. So I love your advice that if you get knocked back into something that's old or a feeling you thought you were beyond, there's work to be done there. So it's your opportunity to go in and explore. What is this coming up for now? Why is this wound opening up for me? And then you can just allow it to move through you a lot faster, right? Which is great. And then before you know it, the next time you get a blind side, you're just going, oh, whatever, and you're bounced right back, right? It takes practice.
Oh, it does. It does. It's a muscle that we're not used to using. And in this culture of sensitivity and carefulness, and we can't say anything to hurt anybody, that muscle has gotten weak and weak and weak, and it's more atrophied than it ever has been. The resiliency that is required to be on a self-healing journey is that of which most people will never come to know unless they've been through it. So just know that you are so strong, and if this is happening for you, it's because you can move through it. It's a possibility to move through it. It doesn't have to be this sad, fearful story.
You don't have to be stuck there. And I think it's important to recognize too, like I know folks will say, oh, why am I going through this again? It's like, okay, because there's still something in here that you need to fix, understand, learn from before you can totally let it go. So that's the important thing is there's still something activated in here that I need to know and understand in order to let go of it. So that's an important thing is what do I need to know? And then you can move on. Right.
And that's it. And I, in my work with my clients, I just try and give them the tools to do that on their own. They don't need me. They don't need my equipment. You just needed somebody to remind you that you have it already within you. Then it's in their responsibility, because I can't heal anybody else, and only my body can heal me. So it's never to be understood that I can heal or cure anybody. That's not the case. It's only that the body can heal itself. But when we give the body the tools and the knowingness around what it's asking for, the sky's your limit.
Right. And so your focus is really with the physical body, doing all those different levels of healing with the physical body. Would you say that in your experience that if people are dealing with emotional health issues, depression, anxiety, that there is a component in the body, they just might not be aware of it? Is there always a link?
Yes.
Is that your experience? Okay, thank you.
Always. Yes.
Always
Always.
something in the body.
Yeah. And I would say, I work on with beliefs a lot. So there's a huge emotional component to my work. But then I do give them the physical tools that are, easy and able to implement to give you the changes.
Right.
But then you've got to do that emotional work too. So it's really a big combination of those two things for me, because of what I learned in my first year of practice is that I would try and give people just the physical, and some of them would be super good and diligent and got the results, but the people who didn't were just missing this big emotional aspect. And I know it's such a treacherous place for people to go. Sometimes they hold their emotions so tightly to them, they don't want to let anybody in there, they don't want to see their darkness. But it's required. It's so
They don't want to
required.
feel it because it feels bad. But you know what?
Yeah.
The only way through it is the only way to get rid of it is to allow it to move through you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's how feelings work, right?
Exactly. You could be eating the cleanest food ever. You could be moving your body every day so diligently. You could be doing all the things perfectly, quote unquote, whatever perfect is for that person. But if they didn't address the emotions and the underlying factors to it all, they're missing something. There's still going to be something to work on at the end of the day. So I try and take those two components, the emotion and the physical, and intertwine them, and then create help that's individualized for the person in front of me.
Right. That's great. Wow. Impressive. Impressive. And I am so impressed with you and what you've created to help other people heal. And so if you could sum up what you do, and if you had a message for the world, message to the people out there, if the thing sort of that you want people to know about where they are, what you do, or even where we're going collectively, what would that message be?
If you're going through any type of block, healing, emotions right now that are heavy, or you're being impacted about what's happening with the world, oftentimes this is a time for a perspective shift, to see the mug from a different angle.
Right.
It's time to take a different lens to what you're looking at and find the brighter side of it. There is always one, you just haven't been looking for it yet. And what I notice collectively in this theme is that, if you look at the past 3 years, there has been eruption of just the garbage.
Yeah. There's been a lot going on in this planet, hasn't
A
there?
lot going on, but this is part of the healing. So
It
if you
is.
can look at the state of the world and say that this is healing, because things are coming to the surface to be detoxed and purged, because they have to, because the truth is trying to get out.
Yes.
It's all a bigger understanding of what's happening within each of us collectively. And I know that there are some very special, talented people out there that tap into these messages and bring them out to the collective. So if you ever need some inspiration, to go and listen to that, because it's very uplifting when you can find the beauty in what humanity's experiencing right now. And also it's very connected feeling when you feel like you're not alone in it. So
Exactly.
that's what
And
I
you
would
are
say.
never alone. That's the thing, right?
Never,
Never alone.
never alone.
I love what you said about sort of the eruption of stuff that's going on has to come up to the surface to come out so the truth can come up. It's the same with your own healing. Emotionally and physically, it has to erupt. Sometimes it erupts in ways that are really uncomfortable and unpleasant.
Yes.
Thank you very much, body and unconscious mind, but you're being sort of pushed into something because you're not getting there on your own fast enough, right? And
That's
so
what
up
I
it
do.
comes.
Yeah, and that's what the number one thing I do is I try and make people feel comfortable in their body again,
Yeah. Oh, I love
and then give them the guide and the help to get on that path, because I
Nice.
know how it feels when you're uncomfortable in your body. It
Yeah.
sucks.
Well, you're definitely needed in this world. So
Uh,
thank you so much. So if
yeah.
anybody wants to get in touch with Melissa Johannes to experience her Hertz health or find out more about the wonderful things that she's doing, you can get in touch with her at hertzhealth.ca, hertzhealth.ca. Wonderful. And I'm just gonna put me here into gallery. There I am, full screen. So I just want to thank you so much, Melissa, for being here with me today. If there's anything else that you would like to impart before we close off the podcast, now's your opportunity. If there's something you really feel you need to say, or if you've covered everything, that's okay too. Whatever works for you.
I wouldn't, my number one message is for people that they can heal by themselves. So if you want to learn a little bit more about me and how I did that on my website, you can scroll down to my newsletter. And I am just starting to open up about my own personal healing experience
Oh,
and give
great.
you the ability to just see the intricate details that are required for it. Because I think that even in this healing community, everything looks joyful and bliss, but really nobody saw the darkness that I had to come through to get to where I am now. So I'm taking it out of my heart and my time to share that with people so they too don't feel so lonely on this journey. So if you want to do that, sign up for my newsletter. You can also follow me on Instagram or friend me on Facebook, and I'm always trying to put out content to support your healing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Yeah. Okay, I was going to ask you one last question, but apparently I'm not now because I can't remember what I was going to ask you. So I just want to thank you so much for being here. And now I remembered. I knew if I move on, it pops in, right? Do
Yeah.
you work online or do you do online work? So that's important for folks
Yes.
because we aren't always in the same geography. Yes, I do online work too. So that's
Yes.
great. Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
So you can reach out to Melissa and set up an online session with her as well. So there's no geographic limitations for your healing, which is awesome. So I just want to thank all of our listeners too for listening in and getting some wonderful insights about Hertz health and frequency and beliefs and quantum healing. It's been so much fun. And I would like to just encourage you all to focus on where you are, pay attention to how you feel, pay attention to your bodies, right? Ask yourself, what do I believe about that? And I'm also very happy to let everybody know that my book, Radical Self-Love, Live a Vibrant Life Beyond Fear and Limitation, is now available in audio format, if I can say it. I'm out on Audible now on Amazon. So there's 3 ways to get all of the great tools and the inspirational stories. You can get a paperback, a digital, or now you can listen in about 5.5 hours long. It's been such a fun project. So you can sort of get yourself back to your bliss, clear out all the things you need to clear out. Awesome. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me through my website, elementalbalance.ca or radicalselflovebook.com. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. And we will be back with you next month to talk about other ways to get from separation to oneness. It's been such a fun day today. Thanks again, Melissa. We'll chat soon.